My sister cut me from her wedding at the last minute with just a simple text. So I went on a trip. While I was bathing under the sunlight, they called saying the wedding had gone horribly wrong. Hannah, we had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you. That was the text my sister sent me. No phone call, no explanation, just a casual line that told me I was officially cut from her wedding guest list. I stared at the screen, reading it over and over, waiting for the punchline that never came. I wasn't some distant acquaintance. I was her sister. The same sister who helped her move 3 times, covered her rent when she was broke, and stayed up all night after every heartbreak. My chest tightened, disbelief mixing with a sting so sharp it almost made me laugh. This had to be a mistake. But when I called my mom, she just sighed and said, "It's just a wedding, Hannah. Don't make a big deal." That was the moment I knew if I wasn't invited, I'd be somewhere better. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Mom, I just got a text from Charlotte. She says the guest list is finalized and I'm not on it. Is this some kind of joke?" There was a pause long enough for me to know the answer before she spoke. "Oh, honey," she sighed, dragging out the word like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "It's just a wedding. Don't make a big deal out of this." "Just a wedding." My stomach nodded. "I'm her sister," I said slowly, as if maybe she'd forgotten. "How am I not invited to my own sister's wedding?" "She had to keep the guest list small," Mom replied. I almost laughed. Small. She invited 150 people. I just saw the Instagram post. "Well, you know how these things are," Mom said, a light chuckle in her voice. "Weddings are expensive. Maybe she thought you wouldn't mind skipping this one." Wouldn't mind. That phrase hit harder than I expected. I'd been there through every one of Charlotte's crises, helped her move apartments in the middle of winter, covered her rent when she lost her job, even lent her money she never paid back. I'd sat with her through ugly breakups, listening to her cry until 2:00 in the morning. I had shown up for her every single time, and now I wasn't worth a seat at her special day. "Oh, stop being dramatic," Mom added, her voice dripping with that dismissive tone she'd perfected. "It's one day. You're overreacting. Overreacting." Right. I knew exactly how this would play out. I'd push back, Mom would brush me off, Charlotte would offer some half-hearted apology later. And I'd be expected to forgive and forget, because that's what I'd always done. Not this time. Something inside me shifted. A line drawn in the sand. If I wasn't important enough to be invited, I wouldn't be important enough to show up when they needed me later. "I have to go," I said flatly, hanging up before she could respond. I set my phone on the table, staring at it for a moment. The initial sting of rejection was quickly being replaced by something else. Clarity. I didn't have to stay here stewing while my family played happy little wedding without me. I opened my laptop. If Charlotte could have the happiest day of her life, I could have the best week of mine. Somewhere warm, somewhere beautiful, somewhere far, far away from this mess. Within minutes, I was scrolling through Caribbean resorts, each one more stunning than the last: white sand beaches, turquoise water, private balconies with ocean views. I'd always told myself a trip like this was too expensive. But right now, it wasn't just a vacation. It was a statement, and I was ready to make it. The moment I decided, it was like a weight slid off my shoulders. I wasn't going to mope around at home while my sister played princess in a dress I probably helped pay for. No, I was going somewhere that didn't require a forced smile or a congratulations card. My fingers flew across the keyboard. 5-star resorts, private beaches, infinity pools so clear they looked photoshopped. The kind of places I used to scroll past because I thought someday maybe, well, someday had just become today. One listing caught my eye: a luxury Caribbean resort with floor-to-ceiling windows, a private balcony, full spa access, and a personal butler. The price tag was steep, but after Charlotte's little stunt, I wasn't about to pinch pennies. I clicked "Book Now" without a second thought. First-class flights, window seat, extra legroom. I even scheduled a massage for the day I arrived. I wasn't just leaving town. I was upgrading my entire mood. As the confirmation email pinged my inbox, I felt a wicked sort of satisfaction. This wasn't running away. It was reclaiming space. My space. I opened Instagram, scrolled to a photo of the resort's beach, and saved it. Not to post yet, but to have ready. Oh, there would be a post. Timing was everything. By the next day, my suitcase was half-packed. Breezy dresses, wide-brimmed hats, and enough swimsuits to last me through a small hurricane. I tossed in a pair of heels, not because I'd need them, but because it felt indulgent. 2 days later, while Charlotte was finalizing seating charts, I was at the airport, sipping an overpriced latte boarding pass in hand. When my flight took off, I snapped the first photo. My legs stretched out in the first-class seat, a glass of champagne in hand, the skyline shrinking below. Caption: cut from the list but still living large. The likes started rolling in before we even hit cruising altitude. Cousin Megan sent a laughing emoji. My college friend texted, "Yes, Queen, take that trip." Even my Aunt Kathy commented, "Good for you, wish I was there." Somewhere between my second glass of champagne and the in-flight meal, my phone buzzed with a notification from Mom. "Where are you?" I smirked and ignored it. When I landed, a sleek black SUV was waiting. The driver handed me a chilled towel and a bottle of water as we drove along a coastline so beautiful it felt unreal. The air smelled of salt and hibiscus. The resort was even more breathtaking in person, towering palm trees in the lobby, the ocean breeze rolling straight through its open-air design. My suite was perfection. White linen sheets, a balcony that overlooked nothing but turquoise water. I stood there for a long moment, just breathing it in. Charlotte could have her wedding day. I had my freedom. The morning of Charlotte's wedding, I woke to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. Sunlight poured through the glass doors, casting a golden shimmer across the king-sized bed. My phone face down on the nightstand was blissfully silent. I ordered room service before I even got out of bed. Fluffy pancakes, tropical fruit and coffee so smooth it could ruin every cup I'd ever have afterward. I carried my breakfast to the balcony toes, brushing against the warm wood eyes locked on the horizon. Back home, I imagined my family in chaos. Charlotte barking orders at her bridesmaids, Mom fussing over centerpieces, someone panicking because the caterer was late. The mental picture made my first sip of coffee taste even better. At 10 a.m., while Charlotte was probably getting her makeup done, I was stretched out on a sun lounger by the infinity pool. A martini in hand, I scrolled through vacation blogs on my phone, not to read them, but to upload my own. Photo me, sunglasses on, hat tilted just right, ocean behind me. Caption: turns out I'm allergic to wedding drama. Within minutes, the comments poured in. My friend Tara, you're glowing. Cousin Megan again, I want your life right now. Even an old coworker chimed in, is there room in your suitcase? The attention wasn't the point, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel good. Around noon, I wandered down to the beach, the sand warm under my feet. The water was crystal clear, and I waded in just far enough for the waves to kiss my knees. Somewhere, a steel drum band played. I felt like the main character in my own movie. When I finally checked my phone there, it was another text from Mom. Are you really missing your sister's wedding for this "you're being petty"? I took a photo of my view, white sand, turquoise water, a cocktail in hand, sent it back with no caption. Then I switched my phone to Do Not Disturb. By late afternoon, I booked a spa treatment, hot stone massage, followed by a facial, the kind of pampering I'd never taken the time for before. When I closed my eyes, the only thing I felt was the soft pressure of warm stones along my spine and the slow, certain realization that I didn't miss home at all. If Charlotte had her special day, this was mine. And I wasn't about to let anyone ruin it. I had no idea that just a few hours later, my phone would light up with messages so frantic, so desperate, I'd think someone had died. Turns out something else had Charlotte's picture-perfect wedding. It was just past sunset when I returned to my suite, skin still warm from the day. The balcony doors were open, letting in the ocean breeze, and I just poured myself a glass of wine when my phone lit up over and over like a slot machine hitting jackpot. At first, I ignored it. Probably more comments on my latest post, but then I caught the names flashing across the screen: Mom Charlotte, Cousin Evan, even Uncle Ray. My curiosity got the better of me. I set my wine down and picked up the phone. The first text was from Mom. Call me, it's an emergency. I rolled my eyes. Everything was an emergency with her if it didn't go her way. I set the phone back down. 30 seconds later, another notification. Cousin Evan, you're not going to believe this. Call me now. Then Charlotte, where are you? I need you. The audacity made me laugh out loud. Need me. 2 weeks ago, I was apparently so irrelevant, I didn't even deserve a chair at her reception. Now suddenly I was vital to the operation. I ignored her. Then came a message from Evan that I couldn't resist opening. The groom left. I froze, blinking at the words. My brain almost refused to process them. Left, I typed back. What do you mean left? Evan replied instantly. Full meltdown. Big fight during the reception. He just walked out. Gone. No one knows where he is. I sat back, letting the information sink in. Somewhere inside, a tiny voice whispered, "You shouldn't be enjoying this." But that voice was quickly drowned out by the louder one saying, "Karma's a beach and I'm on one." More messages poured in. Uncle Ray and my dad had apparently gotten into a shouting match over family reputation. Grandma cried so hard they had to sit her down in another room. The venue cut the bar early because guests were fighting. It sounded less like a wedding and more like the season finale of a bad reality show. Charlotte texted again, "Please pick up, I need your help." I stared at the message for a long moment. The old me, the one who always patched things up, who smoothed over every conflict, would have called immediately, but that Hannah was on vacation. I snapped a picture of my wine glass against the backdrop of the sea at dusk, captioned it, "Busy, enjoying my overreaction," sent it, then turned my phone face down, grabbed my wine, and stepped onto the balcony. Somewhere out there, my family was scrambling, spinning in the chaos they'd chosen for themselves. And me? I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The next morning, I woke to the soft sound of waves and the faint scent of hibiscus drifting through the open balcony doors. For one blissful moment, I forgot about the barrage of messages from the night before. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Mom, it wasn't Charlotte, it was Melissa. Melissa was the only cousin I actually liked. She didn't play sides, didn't spread drama unless the drama was worth sharing. Her text read, "Okay, I know you're ignoring everyone, but you have to hear this. Call me, you're going to love it." I stretched out on the bed, smirking. If Melissa said I'd love something about last night, I believed her. I called. She picked up on the first ring. "Oh my God," she said, breathless. "Are you sitting down?" "I'm lying down in a luxury suite overlooking the ocean. I think I'm ready for whatever this is." Melissa laughed. "All right, so you know the groom walked out, right?" "Yeah," Evan told me. "Reception meltdown. He's gone." What happened? She didn't even take a breath. Apparently during the reception, Charlotte cornered him about something no one knows exactly what, and it turned into a screaming match. He yelled, she yelled, and then he just left. Like didn't even take his jacket, walked out the front door and never came back. I grinned into the phone. "Wow, that's poetic." "Oh, it gets better," Melissa said, her voice practically fizzing with glee. "After he left, your dad and Uncle Ray got into it over who was making the family look bad. Full-on yelling match in the middle of the dance floor. Guests were recording it on their phones." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Please tell me someone posted it." "Not yet, but give it time," she continued. Then Aunt Linda started crying. "Grandma got pulled into it and she, wait for it, blamed the entire disaster on Charlotte for not inviting you." I sat up straight. "Grandma said that." "Oh yeah," Melissa confirmed. "Right there in front of the whole table. She literally said, if you'd treated your family better, you wouldn't be alone in your wedding dress right now." I clapped a hand over my mouth, trying not to burst out laughing. "That's beautiful." "And then," Melissa said, barely able to keep her composure, "your mom overheard Aunt Lisa agreeing with Grandma, and they started fighting, like shouting so loud, the DJ turned the music down. Meanwhile, Charlotte's in the bridal suite throwing things, flowers, champagne glasses at her bridesmaids. The image was so absurd, I had to put my coffee down before I spilled it." "This is unreal." "Oh, and it's not over," Melissa went on. "After all that, your mom actually tried to call the groom's mother to smooth things over." I raised an eyebrow and Melissa's voice dropped to a mocking tone. "This is your problem now." That's all she said before hanging up. I leaned back against the headboard, grinning so wide my cheeks hurt. "You're telling me the same people who made sure I wasn't invited are now blaming me for not being there to save the day?" "Exactly," Melissa said, laughing. "They're saying if you'd been there, you would have talked him down or fixed everything like you always do." I took a long, slow sip of coffee. "Melissa, do you know what the best part of this is?" "What?" "I don't care." Melissa burst out laughing so hard she had to catch her breath. God, I love you for that. Seriously, Hannah, you did the right thing. Of course I did, I said. They wanted a wedding without me. Now they have a wedding disaster without me. Seems fair. We said our goodbyes, and I hung up feeling lighter than I had in years. I padded out onto the balcony, the sunlight warming my skin. Below, the waves curled lazily onto the shore, glittering in the morning light. I raised my coffee mug toward the horizon like a toast to freedom, to peace, and to karma doing my work for me. Somewhere back home, my family was trying to stitch together the tattered remains of Charlotte's perfect day. Me? I was already planning which tropical drink I'd order next. By midday, I'd already had 2 mimosas and a dip in the infinity pool when my phone lit up again. Despite having Charlotte Mom and half the family blocked messages still slipped through from unfamiliar numbers. It was like they were playing tag team with every device in the family. Unknown number, we need to fix this before it's too late. Another, your sister is devastated, call your mother. Then, as if she knew exactly how to cut through the noise, Melissa's name appeared. Heads up, your mom is trying to gather the family for a discussion when you get back. I laughed out loud, startling the woman in the lounger next to me. A family discussion was code for one thing, an ambush disguised as a heartfelt talk designed to guilt me into fixing everyone else's mess. I thumbed out my reply. Thanks for the warning. I won't be there. Melissa texted back almost instantly. Wait, what do you mean? I'm extending my trip. I could almost hear her gasp through the screen. That's iconic. Tell me everything when you get back. I grinned, closed the message, and opened my laptop. In less than 5 minutes, my return flight was canceled and my suite reservation extended by another full week. The confirmation email popped up with a little digital ding, and I swear it felt like freedom in my inbox. I wasn't just skipping their meeting, I was removing myself from their emergency contact list permanently. By the time the sun began to set, I was sitting under a shaded cabana, sipping something blue with a tiny umbrella, when I decided to send one last message to both Charlotte and Mom before re-blocking them. Oh, so now you want me around. Sorry, I'm too busy enjoying my overreaction. Have fun cleaning up your own messes. Hit send, blocked, done. The relief was instant. For years, I'd been the one everyone called when things went wrong. Lost keys, bad breakups, rent due, family fights. My role had always been the fixer, the one who swallowed her own needs to patch everyone else's problems. Not anymore. That night, I treated myself to a 5-star dinner by the water. The steak melted like butter. The wine was deep and velvety, and the only conversation I had was with the waiter who smiled without expecting me to solve his life. Halfway through my meal, my phone buzzed again. For a moment, I considered ignoring it entirely, but curiosity won. It was Melissa. Charlotte just found out you extended your trip. She's furious. Mom's pacing the kitchen. Dad says good for her. Grandma is now telling everyone the wedding was cursed because you weren't there. I actually laughed so hard I had to put my fork down. Cursed, huh? Maybe she was right. After dinner, I walked along the beach, the warm water brushing my ankles, the moonlight painting the waves silver. For the first time in years, my mind wasn't busy rehearsing how to fix someone else's disaster. It was just quiet. Back at the suite, I poured myself a final glass of wine and sat on the balcony watching the tide. In the distance, I could see the faint flicker of boat lights, the gentle pulse of the ocean. Charlotte's wedding had fallen apart. My family was running in circles, chasing pieces they'd never fit back together. And I was here thousands of miles away, finally learning what it felt like to put myself first and like it. I took one last sip, set down the glass, and whispered to no one in particular, not my circus, not my monkeys. The waves rolled in like applause. The first morning of my extended stay, I woke up without an alarm. No buzzing phone, no half-panicked voice on the other end of the line, just the slow, steady rhythm of the ocean and the smell of fresh coffee drifting in from the breakfast cart the staff had wheeled onto my balcony. For years, my mornings had started with other people's problems, voicemails from Charlotte, about rent texts from Mom, about family drama, messages from coworkers about last-minute deadlines. But here, the only decision I had to make was whether I'd spend the day by the pool or down on the beach. I wrapped myself in the plush white robe the resort provided, took my coffee to the balcony, and let the warmth of the sun soak into my skin. For the first time in honestly maybe forever, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. Melissa sent the occasional text, little updates from the front lines of the family implosion. but she knew better than to bombard me. One morning's gem. Charlotte is trying to organize a makeup ceremony. Half the family says no. Aunt Linda says she's still hungover from the original wedding. I laughed out loud. There was something poetic about watching them try to duct tape the pieces back together without the one person who used to be their glue. In the afternoons, I'd wander into the spa for treatments I didn't even know I needed: sea salt scrubs, aromatherapy massages, facials that made me feel like my skin was breathing for the first time. In the evenings, I'd eat by the water, the air warm against my shoulders, the sound of the waves a constant backdrop. Somewhere out there, the family narrative was probably shifting. By now, I was sure I'd gone from overreacting to selfish to cold. And maybe they were right if selfish meant finally taking care of myself. On the fourth day of my extended stay, I took a sunset cruise. The sky bled orange into pink into deep purple. And as I stood at the rail, the breeze in my hair, I realized I didn't miss them at all. Not the way I thought I would. What I missed, if anything, was the version of me who used to believe showing up for people who wouldn't do the same was some kind of virtue. She had been tired. She had been taken for granted, and she was gone now. When the boat turned back toward the shore, the lights of the resort glittering in the distance, I made myself a quiet promise. This peace, this sense of freedom wasn't going to end just because the trip eventually did. On my last evening at the resort, I sat barefoot on the balcony, a glass of champagne in hand. The ocean stretched endlessly before me, the sky melting into shades of gold and coral as the sun dipped low. Back home, I imagined Charlotte still chasing after scraps of her makeup ceremony, Mom pacing the kitchen, half the family avoiding group chats altogether. It wasn't my business anymore. And for once, I meant that. I took out my phone, not to check their messages, but to capture the view. The picture was perfect. The curve of the shoreline, the shimmer of the water, the soft glow of the sky. I posted it with one final caption: "Peace looks good on me." Within minutes, the likes and comments rolled in. Friends cheering me on, old acquaintances sending heart emojis. But this time, I didn't post for them. I posted for me. I raised my glass to the horizon, letting the quiet sink deep into my bones. No guilt, no tension, no last-minute emergencies, just the sound of the waves, the salt in the air, and the knowledge that I had finally stepped out of a role I never chose in the first place. Charlotte's wedding had fallen apart without me. My life, on the other hand, had never felt more whole. I took a slow sip, savoring the moment, and smiled. Zero regrets.